How's it going, everybody? It is Forrest Gump, and we're here running away from these high-yield dividend ETFs, running away from Misty as far as we can from Misty and all these red markets and all these down days. But anyways, it is Dennis. We're here on Halloween talking about QDTE, where we're going around and getting our little candies or getting our dividends, right? It's Friday, it's dividend day from Yield Max ETF, and we're here asking for our candy. So I decided to wear my Halloween costume, of course, that I'm going to be wearing for Halloween. Forrest Gump, giving out some chocolates and hopefully receiving some from our great dividend ETF lords and saviors, Yield Max ETF and Roundhill, right? So a little bit inching here, so don't mind if I'm moving it around. But anyways, let's go ahead and get straight into it. Firstly, we are starting or not firstly, but this video is on the topic of QDT, similar to what we talked about last week with MAGY. We're going to be going over how much we've earned from QDTE and how much we're falling behind compared to what Seeking Alpha shows, what is dividend reinvestment charting, and seeing how much we're falling behind with it, as well as how we're performing and how it's been performing in my portfolio. So you don't know what QDTE is. QDTE is a zero DTE covered call strategy, as it's said up here, and it trades, of course, on the QQQs, the triple Qs, right, or the Nasdaq, and it trades zero DTE on it. So you open in the morning, you close in the end of the day, or they do multiple trades throughout the day, depending on how they see the market fit. And then during closed markets, they're able to get all the movements in the market. So you get that benefit from these ETFs, or from this ETF and others such as XDTE and RDTE from Roundhill, because overnight there's no positions open, so therefore overnight you're able to get some of the upsides, which is mostly where the market moves usually, is overnight and during the overnight market, especially with the QQQs and S&P. So now that we know what the QQQs are, let's go ahead and take a look at what Roundhill thinks, or not what Seeking Alpha believes our return should be from the inception date, of course, of QDTY, or actually this is the comparison to QDTY, but let's go ahead and take a look at how the performance should be since we purchased this ETF, and that will be right here on the third slide. So Seeking Alpha believes that we should be at a 35.86% return if you were to buy shares at the inception of this ETF on May 20, or not the inception, but the date I purchased this ETF or started purchasing this ETF on May 29th, 2024. So Seeking Alpha believes I should have been at 35.86% compared to S&P's 30.83%. Now, what did I receive? Well, if we take a look at this beautiful old chart, we can see that we purchased on May 29th, 2024, one share for $44.72, and we're down $8.89 in value, and we've made $20.26 in dividends. That's a total gain of $11.37, or a total percent return of 25.42. Now, this is not accounting for reinvestments. When you look at Seeking Alpha's chart, Seeking Alpha is accounting for reinvestments. So this is assuming I bought this share on the 29th, similar to how I did, and now it accounts for all dividends reinvested back into that share or back into QDTE, and therefore accounts for share growth and for dividend growth from the amount of shares you've grown, right? So the compounding effect. Well, my chart doesn't really compound for that just yet. I have not included that in my chart just yet. It only accounts for a dividend received based on that one share, and then the total gain that you get minus the share value loss or gain, depending on what ETF you're looking. But most of these high-yield ETFs have share value loss due to erosion over time, but that's how most of these ETFs are structured. So 25.42% is the gain percent return that we see with this ETF. As you see down here, we actually have a 32.34% return, and that's from 7/26/2024. And that's a reinvestment right there that we did. Barely anything, $34.79 worth of shares. And that returned 32.34%. So we have that 32% return, but it's or close to 30% return, but it's actually a little bit further up ahead on the time frame. So technically, you could say that we are outpacing on what Seeking Alpha believes we should have made. But let's go ahead and take a look really quick at what we've been doing with QDTE and where our purchases or major purchases have been. So we can see that we started off small, right? We started off with one share 1 share. We got some reinvestments in. Then we got 2 shares here. And then we went in with 5 shares or $231. That's so far been down $52.45. We bought this on June 17, 2024. And we've made $98.34 in dividends, or $45.89 in total gains. We then bought another batch of 6 shares for $274.80. That's down $59.82 in value, but we've made $114.09, or $54.27 in total gain, or 19.75% in percent return, or 19.81% in total return. We also did 3 major batch purchases, as you can see over here, on the 3rd of July. We did 22 shares, 1,000 for each. I'm not quite sure why they got split up. It's probably a batch order that got split into 2, but we could see $1,000 and $1,000 invested here on July 3rd. That's so far down $214 and $215 in value, but has made $414 in dividends, giving us a total return of $199.94 and $198.40, or a 19.95% return and 19.76% return. We see another batch purchase of 22, or $1,002.98 on July 12th. As you can see, July, I was buying a lot of investments, and I'm pretty sure July is when I was rebalancing my portfolio, so that's probably where that income came from. And there we lost $214.72 in value. We've made $406.38 in dividends, and the total value gain is $191.66, or 19.11%. Looking down, we have a couple more purchases here in July. July was a very big month for us, right? So 9 shares, 7 shares, $393.12, $305.97. So in July alone, we spent around $4,000 in QDTE. We loaded up on a bunch of shares, and we lost $70.65 in value, $55.16 in value, and we made $163.45 in dividends, $127.13 in dividends, and that gave us a $92.80 total gain, or in $71.97 total gain, or 23.61% return and a 23.52% return. Moving down the list, we can see we had another big purchase area here on September 3rd and September 6th, where we had 7 shares, 13 shares, and 6.5 shares purchased of $295, $541, and $259, so pretty much $1,000 altogether collectively. We've lost $44.24, $75.27, and $26.91. We earned $108.22, $200.98, and $98.35, or a total return of $63.98, $125.71, and $71.44, or a total percent return of 21.68, 23.23, and 27.50. As you can see, the numbers went higher around this time. It seems like this time of September was a good time to be buying. As you can see, total percent return is quite high at 27.5, 26.7, 23.23. Right, so it trended upwards towards this time and then started trending back downwards, as it should be, because we are DCAing over time. Going down, we had a couple purchases of 4 and 6 shares. I guess there's a $250 purchase right here that we had. We had another $250 purchase in November. And then in December, we had 8 and 5 shares purchased on the 3rd and the 5th of December of $343.68 and $216.15. We've lost $57.04 in value and $37 in value on the 5 shares purchased. We've made $96.19 in dividends and $58.94 in dividends. And the total return is $39.15 and $21.94, or 11.39% and 10.15%. Now, keep scrolling down, because if you had another big purchase at the end of December, right? Sorry, itchy beard. I don't know how I'm going to last with this all day, but itchy beard. December 30th, 2024, we bought 12.5 shares, or $501. We lost $53.13 of value. Now I have hair in my mouth. Wow. That. Okay. I think I got it. And we made $124.37. And we gained $71.24 in value, and we're up 14.22%. Moving on down, we can see that we kind of stopped purchasing shares. We were just reinvesting back in, which we stopped later on. But you can see we stopped purchasing shares into the new year. It kind of slowed down. Everything slowed down a little bit. And then we started, as you can see, we stopped the reinvestments and we started managing the reinvestments on our own. And that's when we had big purchase right here in May, where we were purchasing a lot of shares, as you can see. We purchased 14.5 shares and 44 shares, 14.5 shares on the 16th for $34.37 a share, or $498.37. We are actually up on that at $21.17. I'm pretty sure this is after the tariff news, if I'm not correct. Yeah, it is right after the tariff news, so that's why this is up. So up $21.17. We made $75.79 in dividends, and we're up $96.96 in total value, or 19.46% return. On the big purchase of 44 shares, we're up $69.96, $230 in dividends earned from these 44 shares, and $299.96 of total value gained, or 19.91%. So this is a great time to be purchasing. As you can see, most of this is actually green, and that's because QDT has actually been trending upwards for the past couple months, since April, and the whole tariff drama has been trending upwards, which is pretty nice to see. As you can see, we have another two big purchases in August 15th. August 15th, we have 14 shares for 500-ish, or $495.60. Then we have another 14 shares purchased on the 28th of August for $490.28. That's $6.02 in total gain, $11.34 in total gain, $33.38 in dividends, $27.16 in dividends, and $39.40 in gains, and $38.50 in gains. Sorry, that was not total gain. That was in value gain of $11.34 and $6.02. And that percent return is 7.95 and 7.85. Moving down on and getting close to the end. Our last big purchase was in October 3rd, 2025, where we purchased 20 shares at $711.80 total paid, or $35.59 per share. That's been up $4.80 in value. We've made $16.85 in dividends, and total value gain $21.65, or 3.04%. Yep. So that's pretty much it. As you can see, we bought on those 6 shares in October 6th for $214. And ever since then, we've just been reinvesting back in week for week from when our dividends are. And you can see the latest purchase was on the 30th, which is today as of recording this video, where we bought 1.3 shares, $46.77 total. And we're down currently 20 cents on it because the market went down today towards the end of the day. And yeah, so we're down negative 0.42% total annualized on that total return, and as well as no dividends earned because these shares have not yet received any dividends. Wow, this is really getting in my mouth. I don't know how this is going to work when I go out. I don't know. This is going to be difficult. Drinking, I'm going to have to go like this. Go like this. And I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Now let's see what our total percent return is for the total holdings, for all the holdings. What is our average percent return? If we go down, total investment into this, first of all, into QDT, is over $16,000 into QDTE. We're currently holding 407 shares. Yep, 407 shares. Value loss in total is negative 1.5K, which is not that bad when you look at it compared to other funds. We've earned $4,109.64 in dividends, and total profits is $2,598.04, or a 16.14% return. As you can see, it's quite close to what the average percent return of 16.55. So you can see these this little end over here kind of lowered our average return of 16.14%. So not too bad. Not too bad at all. And if we go ahead and take a look at where we're getting these numbers from, if it's your first time watching, we're getting our numbers, of course, for live from current share price at closing, which was at $35.83. Also, we are getting, let's go ahead, our dividend information straight from QDTE, right? So you go to distributions. That's a little bit too far. If you go to distributions, you take this, you can just go ahead and copy and paste that into any Excel sheet. And let me take this off because that's really annoying. If you take that into any Excel sheet, you could go ahead and see that I uploaded all into my sheet. I did a little bit of calculations here on the side to make it a little bit easier. And then I was able to just input all the information that is needed to calculate what the distributions were for all my positions when they were purchased, and so on and so on. Now, let's see how QDT overall has performed. Of course, we saw before on the chart. When it comes to the total return based on inception, it's at 38.46% compared to the S&P, which is 33.61%. We could also compare this, of course, to QQQ, and it's probably going to lag behind QQQ, of course. So if we go ahead and take a look at that, I think it got updated to a later time frame. What was the inception date? Around 3/7, right? So 3, that's not 3, 3/7, 2024. So since then, 38.46%, S&P has returned 33.61%, and QQQ has returned 44.12%. So yep, it is doing a little bit less than QQQ, but that is to be expected. Of course, QQQ is underlying. It's not able to capture all the upside, but it is beating S&P 500. So if you don't want to be invested into, like, say, XDTE, which will underperform the S&P and the QQQ, you can invest into QDTE, will overperform or beat the S&P 500 and underperform its underlying the QQQ. Of course, it doesn't hold actual shares in the QQQ, so technically it's not underlying. It just trades based on the QQQ. But as you can see, it's been performing quite well. And it's also been able to do pretty well with its share value. It's been sticking around plus $30 value, around $35. So it's not too shabby when it comes to value hold and NAV erosion. It's able to keep that somewhat stable. And this, of course, like mentioned before, it had, due to that zero DT option strategy that they run, right? The zero DTT cover call strategy they run. They don't hold anything overnight, so you're able to capture most of the upside movements overnight. So say overnight news, overnight earnings, everything of that sort, you're able to capture that and therefore gain in value on the overnight markets. So that's also pretty good as well. But if we take a look at it based on other competitors in the QQQ space, QDTE compared to QDTY, which is YieldMax's ETF, QDTY, and this is, of course, since the inception of QDTY. So 12.51% earned from QDTY compared to S&P's 12.68. So QDTY is underperforming S&P. It's underperforming the QDTE. And actually, QQQI is beating QDTE. So if you think about it, if dividends and the percent return is not something that you are really striving for, QQQI is actually a pretty good option. I'm pretty sure not only is it good on dividends, but it's probably also good on price return. And if we go on price return, as you can see, QQQI is at 7.69%. So if you were taking out all your dividends, and I'm pretty sure QQQI yields 14%. If you were taking out all your dividends, you would still be up 7.69% in value from QQQI. And as you saw before, if you were reinvesting, you'll be up 14% compared to QDT's 13%. But QDT also does yield 33.65%. So if you were going to split that into two, right? So 50% goes back in, 50% goes into your pockets. Your percent yield, distribution yield, would be higher than QQQI. And then if we do like some simple maths, of course, it's not accurate to the T, but we did some simple maths. We saw that our total return, right? Our total return for that time slot, which was 2/13/2025, 2/13/2025, right? Am I off? I think I'm there, right? Yep, there you go. So 2/13/2025, as you saw, 13.39%, 14.9%. If, of course, if you split 50-50, then your total return will be 13.39%. It'll be roughly half of that. So we could say that you have like a 6 to 7% return, or a 6.5% return, right? 6.75 will be literally making as accurate as possible. 6.75% return with a dividend yield of half of 33, right? So roughly 16% return. So you will have a higher return. You have a similar total return as QQQI, and you'll be yielding a higher dividend than QQQI, because QQQI yields around 12 to 14%, if I'm not wrong. I'll go ahead and check that really quick. If I'm not wrong, QQQI yields currently 14%. So yeah, you will be beating QQQI's dividend distribution rate annually by 1 to 2% by doing a 50-50 split. And of course, if you did a 25-75 split, you would have a less total return. You would have roughly like a 3% total return on QDTE, but then you would also be making like 20-something% on dividends. So it's all up to you and based on how you play the strategy. But overall, I think QDT is a great investment so far in my portfolio. Not financial advice. This is not financial advice. Don't buy this just because I say it's a great product in my portfolio. But in your portfolio, it might be different. So do your research before purchase. But in my portfolio, it's been doing quite well, as you saw on this huge chart that I create and track. 16.14% total return. I use half of the dividends to put into other investments such as MAGY. All of MAGY's position has been built up using dividends from YMAX, QDT, and other assets. such as option strategies and so on. So all of this position, all of this $5,000 in value was built up using QDTE, YMAX, and other dividends to build this up. So this is not money that's been taken from my check or put into the portfolio. This is all made from those investments, and of course, rebalancing of the portfolio here and there, but nothing huge. So it's very nice to be able to have this stable distribution. That's also a great thing about QDTE, stable distribution from them compared to other companies and other products, right? We can see that it sticks around the 20-cent mark, and it's pretty consistent with it. As you can see, just 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, and just for months and months and months and weeks and weeks and weeks paying 20 cents. So it's pretty good to see that, pretty good to have for compounding effects. And of course, the distribution is half of pretty much of what YMAX is, because I'm pretty much YMAX at 50 at 60%, while QDT, as you saw, is at 33%. So it does yield less, but it is stable, it is compounding, and it's pretty nice to see. And it's pretty nice to have, I have yield max with the YMAX, which is pretty much like, the S&P of their funds, right? I guess you could call it, or but I have SPYI for S&P. I have QDTE for the QQQs. I also have JEPQ as well in my portfolio, which I haven't been adding into. And then, of course, I have all these other funds in my portfolio, but overall, it's a nice thing to have for diversity as well. So that's QDT. That's how it's been performing in my portfolio, yielding 16.14% total return. And I hope you guys, found that interesting. Hopefully that is good information for you guys to make some good financial decisions. Of course, this is not financial advice, so don't take this as something like you should be doing, you should be purchasing. That's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. And also, before we end off the video, if you watched this far into the video, I am proud to announce that I am now, working with Seeking Alpha. I'm working with Seeking Alpha, and I'm offering a discount for any of my viewers. So if you want to get yourself Seeking Alpha Premium or any other product, you can go ahead and click the link down below, and you'll be able to use Seeking Alpha's discount for their product. And of course, I do earn a commission as well. So it's very nice that they were able to give me that chance to go ahead and give you guys some kind of bonus for being a viewer. And of course, you can see I use Seeking Alpha in most of my videos. So, it's a great thing to have and a great tool to use. So anyways, see you guys later. Link down below, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week for the monthly breakdown of how much we've earned for this month. And damn, it has been a good month for October. See ya.